Okay, so I have a confession to make.
Oh.
I have this shirt. It's tucked way in the back of my closet. It's loud. It's got this wild pattern. It is completely ridiculous.
I think I know where this is going.
And I have never, not once, worn it outside of my bedroom. Every single time I put it on, I look in the mirror and I panic. And I change right back into, a plain gray t-shirt.
That is a very specific and I would say a very, very relatable confession. We all have that panic shirt.
Right. But see, I usually just chalk that up to me having bad taste or like a momentary lapse in judgment at the store.
Sure.
But today, you've brought us a deep dive that suggests something else is going on, something much deeper.
That's the idea.
We're looking at an article by Emilia Nadrataska-Chuba. It's called Fashion as a Tool for Shadow Integration. And I have to be honest, when I first saw that title, I was pretty skeptical.
I can imagine.
Are we really going to try to combine deep Jungian psychology with, retail therapy?
It does sound like a stretch, doesn't it? But, stick with me here. This isn't really about retail therapy in that classic sense of, buying things to feel better.
Okay.
This is about the idea that your wardrobe is actually a kind of battleground.
A battleground.
Yeah, it's a place where the conscious you that you show to the world and the unconscious not you are sort of fighting for territory.
Wow, okay. That is a much more dramatic way to look at my morning routine. So what's the mission of this text then? Because shadow integration sounds like something I'd need a PhD for, not a credit card.
Well, the mission is really to explore how our clothing can act as a kind of a safe space.
A safe space.
A safe space to meet the parts of yourself that you've probably spent your entire life trying to hide.
Mm-hmm.
Nadrataska-Choba is arguing that we can use fashion to sort of pull things out of our unconscious and bring them into the light without totally blowing up our lives in the process.
Okay, before we get to the clothes themselves, we have to lay some groundwork. This core concept, the shadow. I feel like people throw this term around to me in like my dark side or my evil twin or something.
Right.
But in the context of this source, what are we actually talking about?
It's so much deeper than just evil. So to really get the shadow, you first have to understand the persona.
Okay.
Think of your personality like a house. The living room, let's say, is your persona. It's well lit, it's tidy, it's where you host guests, it's the version of you that, society and your parents and your boss approve of.
Got it. So my persona is the guy who pays his taxes on time and wears the gray t-shirt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But every house also has a basement. And the basement is where you throw everything that doesn't quite fit in that perfect living room.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe when you were a kid, you were too loud or too angry or maybe too sensitive. You learned pretty quickly that those things were bad.
Yeah, you get told to quiet down.
You don't stop having those traits, though.
Yeah.
You shove them in the basement.
Mm.
And you lock the door. That basement. That's the shadow.
So the shadow isn't necessarily just bad stuff. It's just rejected stuff.
Precisely. It's the unlived life. It could be aggression, sure, but it could also be your creativity, your ambition, your sensitivity, even your need for attention. It's this bag we're all dragging behind us, just filled with everything we're ashamed to show the world.
Okay, so I'm dragging this bag around, but the whole point of this article is that the bag, it leaks.
The bag always leaks. Jung was very, very clear about this. What is hidden does not disappear. You can lock that basement door, but the shadow's down there, lifting weights. It just gets stronger.
Ha, right.
And usually we see it leak out in our dreams, or maybe when we have a little too much to drink, or when we, accidentally scream at a barista for no good reason.
The classic I don't know what came over me moment.
Exactly that. But Nadrataska-Choba argues there's another leak, a more subtle one. The shadow leaks out in the dressing room. It leaks out in that split second where your hand just reaches for something that is totally not you.
See, this is where I want to push back a little. Because if I reach for that weird, loud shirt, my brain immediately says, no, that's ugly, or I could never pull that off. That just feels like common sense to me, not repression.
But ask yourself this. Why can't you pull it off? Is it physically impossible?
Well, no.
Of course not. The phrase, I can't pull that off, is actually code. It really translates to, my persona does not allow me to be the kind of person who wears this.
Huh.
The shadow is the part of you that wants to wear it, and that friction you feel. That's the war between the living room and the basement.
So fashion becomes this weird interface. It's, low stakes enough that the shadow feels safe enough to peek out?
Exactly. It's so much safer to try on a leather jacket than it is to, quit your job and join a motorcycle gang.
Right. Good point.
Fashion is symbolic. It lets us play with these hidden energies without the catastrophic consequences of acting them out for real.
Okay, let's get into the specifics then, because the source breaks this down into some really interesting archetypes. And
Yeah.
I think everyone listening is going to see themselves in one of these. Let's start with the extrovert.
Ah, the extrovert's paradox.
Yeah?
This is a fascinating one. So picture someone who's always the life of the party. They're always on. They're loud. They're engaging. All their energy is directed outward.
I know this person. And they're usually wearing bright colors, conversation starter type outfits. They take up space.
Right. But then one day you notice a shift. They start drifting towards minimalism.
Mm.
We're talking beige, monochrome, unstructured linen, really simple cuts, maybe no jewelry.
And my first thought would just be, oh, they're just maturing, or maybe they're just following a trend.
That's the surface read, for sure. But the deep dive analysis says, look at what's missing from that picture.
The noise.
The noise. By stripping away the noise of their clothing, they're unconsciously trying to strip away the noise of the world. They're repressing their own need for solitude. They're exhausted.
Wow. That's actually kind of tragic. It's like their clothes have become a do not disturb sign because they don't know how to just say no with their mouth.
That's a perfect way to put it. The minimalism isn't just an aesthetic choice, it's a boundary. Their shadow is screaming for silence, for some interconnection, for a break from performing all the time.
So they can't stop performing socially.
So they make their clothes stop performing instead.
So if you're an extrovert who's suddenly obsessed with beige, maybe you don't need a new wardrobe. Maybe you just need a nap and a week alone in a cabin.
It's very, very likely.
Okay, so let's flip that. Let's look at the introvert. The source calls this one the introvert's roar.
Right. So this is the person who has spent their entire life trying to be invisible.
Mm-hmm.
They wear gray, black, things that just blend in. They actively do not want to be looked at. Their whole persona is the nice, quiet one.
And then one day they buy, what,
Well,
a sequin jacket?
They buy the neon. They buy the animal print. They buy some structural architectural piece with huge shoulders, something that physically demands that you look at it.
Which sounds like an absolute nightmare for an introvert. If I want to be invisible, why on earth would I wear a highlighter yellow jacket?
Because the shadow contains precisely what the persona lacks.
Mm.
If you've spent your life repressing your own power, your desire to be seen, your, desire to take up space, that energy has to go somewhere.
And the roar comes out in the fabric.
Yes, the jacket is doing the screaming that the person is too afraid to do themselves.
Wow.
It's a safe way to experiment with being powerful. You're not, standing on a table demanding respect. You're just wearing a coat.
Yeah.
But psychologically, you're dipping your toe in the water. You're practicing being visible.
I really relate to the third archetype the text brings up, the thinker. This is the head type.
Oh, this one is so common, especially in high-performance fields or tech. This is the person who lives entirely in logic. Facts, data, spreadsheets, rational analysis.
Right. Emotions are messy, inefficient.
Exactly. Their persona is the smart one.
And I'm picturing very utilitarian clothes, hoodies, jeans, stuff that's just functional. No frills.
Precisely.
Mhm.
But then you look at what their shadow craves. The text says these are the people who are often drawn to romantic details.
Romantic details, like what?
Softness.
Yeah.
Things like lace, velvet, silk, pastel colors, flowy fabrics that move with the wind.
It's such a clash, though. You've got this rigid, logical mind, and then this desire to dress like a poet from the 19th century.
It's the law of compensation. Because they basically starve their emotional body, the shadow is desperate for softness. They're repressing their vulnerability, their sensitivity.
So when the tech bro suddenly gets obsessed with a cashmere scarf or a silk shirt, it's not just about luxury goods.
No, not at all. It is a desperate plea from the unconscious. It's the psyche literally saying, please, let me feel something. Wearing something soft allows them to physically experience the gentleness they won't let themselves feel emotionally.
This all sounds very poetic, but I want to talk about the actual mechanics of this, because in my experience, when I try to bridge that gap, when I take the shadow item into the changing room, it doesn't feel therapeutic. It feels awful.
Ah, yes. The threshold of discomfort.
It's not just discomfort, it's almost nausea. Like, I put on the leather jacket and I don't feel integrated. I feel like a total fraud. I feel like everyone's looking at me and thinking, who does he think he is?
And that reaction, that is the most important part of this entire process. If you didn't feel that, it wouldn't be shadow work.
Wait. So feeling like a complete imposter is a good sign?
It is the only sign. Think about it. That imposter syndrome feeling is your persona hitting the panic button.
Ah.
It's your ego trying with all its might to shove the shadow back into the basement. It's screaming, "This isn't us. We are the nice guy in the cardigan. Take this off right now."
So the fact that I want to rip it off my body means I'm actually hitting a nerve.
You're hitting the exact nerve. Nadrataskachova suggests that we need to reframe that discomfort. So instead of thinking, "I look stupid," you interpret that feeling as, "I am expanding." You are literally stretching the boundaries of who you are allowed to be.
But where's the line? I mean, I have to be the skeptic here for a second. Isn't there a danger that we're just, I don't know, justifying a shopping addiction? Honey, I didn't blow our savings on designer boots. I'm doing shadow work.
That is a very, very valid cynicism, and there's a clear distinction.
Okay.
So retail therapy or a shopping addiction is usually about numbing. You buy things to distract yourself, to get that little dopamine hit, and then you just shove the item in the closet and forget about it. It's mindless.
And shadow integration is mindful.
Yes. It's intentional, and frankly, it's difficult. It requires you to sit with that imposter feeling. You're not buying to numb, you're buying to provoke.
Okay.
If you buy an item and it makes you feel safe and bored, it's probably just clothes. If you buy an item and it makes your heart race and your palms sweat because you're afraid to wear it to the grocery store, that's the work.
Okay, so let's say I do it. I buy the panic shirt. I pay the money. I take it home. Now what? Do I just stare at it?
The source talks about this as a dialogue. There are two messages happening.
A dialogue.
Message one was the initial urge to buy it. That was the shadow calling out to you. Message two is you actually wearing it. That's you validating the shadow.
Oh, dear.
You're telling that repressed part of yourself, "I see you, I accept you, you are allowed to exist." But, and this is the key part, you don't have to go from 0 to 100. You don't wear the panic shirt to a big job interview.
All right, low stakes.
The text calls it low stakes, high reward. Wear it for 10 minutes in your living room while you're alone. Then maybe wear it to go buy milk. Then eventually wear it to lunch with a close friend you trust. You're titrating the experience.
You're building up a tolerance to your own hidden personality.
Exactly. You are slowly, carefully proving to your nervous system that you will not, in fact, die if you show this part of yourself. The world won't end if you wear the velvet.
It's so interesting because it suggests the change happens from the outside in. We usually think, we have to fix our minds first before we can change our behavior. But this says, no, just change the costume and the actor inside will follow.
We are physical creatures. And sometimes the mind is just too stubborn. I mean, the mind has spent years building that persona fortress, but the body responds to the sensation of a fabric, the color, the fit. You can sort of trick the mind by going through the body first.
Does it ever stop being scary? Or do I just have to be terrified of my wardrobe forever?
The goal, according to Jung in this source, is wholeness. And eventually the shadow gets integrated. That means the trait isn't in the basement anymore. It's upstairs in the living room with the rest of you.
So eventually the leather jacket just feels like a jacket.
Yes. And when that happens, you've successfully expanded your personality. You've accepted your aggression or your power or your softness. You're no longer split. But, knowing human nature, once you integrate that, you'll probably find something else in the basement to start working on.
It's a never-ending renovation project.
Indeed. But it's better than the alternative.
Which brings me to a thought that's been nagging me through this whole conversation. We tend to praise consistency in people. We trust people who are always the same. Right.
We look at someone who's had the exact same style for 20 years and we think, wow, they really know themselves.
We call it timeless. We call it disciplined.
But after reading this, I'm looking at that consistency very differently. Is it really discipline or is it just fear?
That is the provocative question, isn't it? If your style hasn't changed in 10 years, is it because you haven't grown? Or is it because you've just gotten really, really good at suppressing the new parts of yourself that are trying to emerge?
That's a terrifying thought.
It is. The source hints at this idea that extreme consistency might actually be a form of extreme repression. It's a fortress you've built to keep the shadow locked down tight.
So if I'm looking around a room, the person who maybe looks like a bit of a mess, wearing a weird mix of styles, maybe something that doesn't quite fit, they might actually be the healthiest person there.
Well, they are certainly the ones in the most active dialogue with their unconscious.
Right.
They're willing to be messy. They're willing to try things on. And that really takes courage. Courage. We don't usually associate getting dressed in the morning with courage.
But maybe we should. To look at your own shadow, the parts of you that you have learned to hate, and to say, I'm going to wear this today. That is an act of bravery.
So let's bring this home for the listener. For the person standing in front of their closet right now, looking at that same row of gray t-shirts, what's the takeaway?
The takeaway is this. Pay attention to the glitch. Pay attention to that item that catches your eye in a store, but makes your stomach drop. Don't ignore that friction.
Don't just walk away from the thing that makes you feel like an imposter.
Lean into it. Try it on. You don't even have to buy it, but just putting it on your body is starting a conversation with your soul.
It honestly changes the way I see the world. Now, when I walk down the street, I'm going to be analyzing everyone's outfit. That guy in the perfectly tailored three-piece suit.
Maybe he's holding himself together with all that structure because he feels like he's falling apart on the inside.
And the woman in the mismatched neon layers.
Maybe she's finally letting herself take up the space she was denied as a child. It turns every sidewalk into a kind of psychological map.
I want to leave everyone with a final thought, something to chew on that isn't explicitly in the text, but it feels like. It feels like where this all leads.
Go on.
If you never wear anything that scares you, if your style is perfectly consistent, perfectly you for decades, what part of yourself have you had to kill to keep it that way?
A haunting question, but a necessary one.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. Go find your panic shirt.
And have the courage to wear it. Goodbye.